And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, welcome everybody. The date today is Sunday, January the 27th, 2019. And this is episode 10 of Two Dudes and Some Bullshit. It's hard to believe that we've made it to episode 10, but we are here, and Tony and I have decided on this. Well, it's a chilly, wintry night here in Toronto, Canada, but we have decided to dedicate this episode specifically to what else? Halloween and the series. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, but haven't you talked about Halloween already? Yes, Tony and I have mentioned it sporadically here and there when we want to make a point about something, or of course we get asked a lot of Halloween questions at the end of our shows, but we have not actually dedicated a specific show yet to Halloween and the Halloween series, believe it or not. So that's what we're going to do today, and I thought that Tony and I would get the ball rolling. Tony, how are you doing on this Sunday night?
I'm doing great. Trick or treat, mother mof. Whoa, can't say that on public television, right?
Yeah. Well, you never know. There could be kiddies that are watching.
This is true. And I don't know, YouTube and their strictness nowadays, right? Got to be careful what you say. Unless you're Joe Rogan, then you can say whatever the hell you want.
That's very true. Also, a reminder to those in the chat room, for those of you who will, or maybe none of you will, but just a reminder for those that are going to or may give a super chat. That's always appreciated, but hold off until sort of when we open the floor up to questions, because if you ask a question now, then it's going to go up the thing and I'm not going to see it. So hold off on your questions, including the super chats, if you decide to do that, of course, until towards the end when we open up the chat room. So with that out of the way, yeah, let's get this ball rolling. Okay, well,
Michael Myers.
Yes, Michael Myers.
Hey, Michael. Hey, Michael, how you doing?
Okay, I'll start. Okay, well, Halloween has always been my favorite horror movie, of course, for those of you that don't know. But how it all started really was I was into Freddy Krueger and Jason before I was ever into Michael Myers. And I think a lot of kids actually were growing up in the 80s. Sorry, I think a lot of kids growing up in the 80s actually were, because as Tony and I have mentioned many times, and I've mentioned in the past as well, that you know, Michael Myers was really MIA throughout most of the 80s. You had Halloween 2 in 1981, which was at the very beginning of the decade. And then you didn't see him again until Halloween 4, which is 1988, at the very end of the decade. So in that time, between 81 and 88, Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees were not only tearing it up at the box office, but tearing it up in terms of being embedded into the pop culture consciousness. Michael was nowhere to be seen. So most kids got into Freddy and Jason because that's what was there. And it was my brother Neil, that my older brother Neil, who introduced me to Halloween and Michael Myers, because according to him, Halloween was the first horror movie that he ever watched that didn't give him nightmares. So he really, that meant something to him. And of course he really liked the mask and the music and all that kind of stuff. Who doesn't? But I started to watch Halloween, and of course Halloween 2. And at that time, in the mid to late 80s, before 1988, that's all there was. There was no Halloween 4 at that time. So, yeah, and I loved, even as a kid, I just loved the music and the mask. I loved the whole mysteriousness aspect of him. Which was really cool. So that's, for me, in a nutshell, that's how I was introduced to Michael Myers and Halloween, was my brother Neil, who basically said, well, if you really like Freddy and Jason, why don't you check out this cool one that I like? So that's sort of how it happened to me. How did it happen for you, Tony?
Well, as we were discussing briefly here off camera just before we went live, this year is actually my 30th anniversary for being introduced to the franchise. It was roughly, I'm going to say, somewhere between March and April, where I was at a friend's party and her brother was watching this movie on television. I had no idea what the hell it was. All I knew is I saw the little girl in a clown costume that I was very attracted to. Keep this in mind that we're both the same age at the time in 1989. Okay, today it sounds weird, but back in 89, it's not weird. All right, but that was what was catching my attention. I didn't know what the movie was about, and like you said too, the music, the melody of the music is like, okay, this is really freaking cool. And I'm going to say somewhere either before or just around the beginning of the second act of Halloween 4 is when I said, all right, enough of this back and forth pacing through your room. I'm going to sit down and watch this movie. And sure enough, I did. And that moment, that night, I was hooked. I remember begging and pleading with her brother to let me take this tape home, VHS, for those who don't know. That's how we used to watch movies back in the Stone Age. And he did. He was really cool about it. And I kept it for like a couple months till I finally realized, like, you know, I could just do VCR to VCR, which is how we used to record shit back in the day, and made myself a copy. And Halloween 4, that was my first introduction to the franchise and will always be my favorite personal Halloween film of the franchise, because you always remember the first time you see something and when you're introduced to it. And it's been a love-hate relationship ever since, kind of like most of my relationships.
That's awesome. It's cool. Yeah, there, you know, before cable as well, not before cable, but thanks to AMC, you know, every year around Halloween time, we get all the Halloween films, but it wasn't always like that. You know, it would appear sporadically on one of the major networks, NBC or, you know, whatever it is, around Halloween time, but it wasn't always like that. And it was very difficult. I was a huge fan of the original movie, obviously, because that's all there was at that time, and Halloween 2. And Tony and I have talked about this as well, to actually have a physical copy of the original Halloween on VHS, something you own, was very difficult for many years. And it wasn't until Blockbuster in the early 90s that little cassette tape right there.
That one, oh yeah, that's it.
Way back there.
Yep.
That it became readily available for everybody. And that was 93. So in 1993, I was 14. And I remember going to the video store and buying it. And I don't know how I bought it, because it was rated R, but I bought it. And I took it home and I watched it and watched it and watched it. It was so wonderful to finally have it on tape, because for a long time, it was a very difficult, the first Halloween was extremely difficult to get.
Isn't that crazy to say, though? You think about it in the day and age that we're in now, where everything's just instant. You can go on iTunes, get Halloween, you know, 2018 or whatever Halloween you want to get. It's there. Except for Halloween Rob Zombies 2. Canada offers it on iTunes, but not here in the States. Don't know why. But it's a weird thing. But yeah, it's like, you know, going back to when we were kids, to say that we couldn't get access to it, you know, and that's why when people look at me like, oh, Halloween 4 was the first one you saw. Yeah, it was, because Halloween, I couldn't watch it for like 4 years. The only ones I had available to me were 4, 5, eventually 5 when it came out, and 3 and 2. That was it. That was all. And my only knowledge of Halloween, the original, was the beginning of Halloween 2. That's it. That's the only thing that I ever saw and that's not really the original. Is that the original cut, or was that an edit that they spliced in at the beginning of 2? Because there's sequence there where Loomis runs out of the house. Is that from the original filming, or is that spliced in at the beginning of 2? How did they?
No, that's the beginning of Halloween 2, where he runs out of the house and the neighbor, you know, yeah.
And that was it. That was it. And my uncle, who was a horror fanatic, I mean, that's who really turned me on to horror. So my grandfather did a little bit, but God bless his soul, man. You know, I'm, you know, his 10-year-old, 12-year-old nephew. Every time we'd get together for family gatherings, I'd ask him to tell me, okay, so what happened in this scene in the original Halloween? And without skipping a beat, he would tell me everything. So I had to envision all this stuff in my mind for like 4 years until finally Blockbuster came around and I finally got the payoff. And of course, obviously it's iconic and it's great. But yeah, it's crazy to say that we couldn't get that movie for 4 years, you know?
It's true. It was a very difficult movie to get. And then this one right up here, which is Halloween 2, 1981 on VHS. That was given to me. I was actually in the hospital. I had chicken pox, but I developed encephalitis from it. And I got chicken pox late in life. I was 15 when I actually contracted it. I don't know how I went through school and all this kind of jazz and didn't actually get it, but my mother bought me that when I was sick in the hospital, and I had already seen the film, but my dad never had. And my dad came over to the hospital to see how I was doing, because I was in the hospital for about 12 days or so. And they wheeled a TV and a VCR in. This is 1995. And my dad and I sat and watched Halloween 2 at 9 o'clock at night in a hospital. And it was just great. You know, watching that movie in a hospital was a lot of fun. But those two movies, even Halloween 2 from 1981, was very difficult to get on VHS. But nonetheless, so yeah. So I mean, that's sort of how Tony and I. Sorry.
You're right on the on one other thing too. You know, as far as, well, like what people don't understand, you know, because it's hard to imagine a time where Michael Myers wasn't popular. It's hard to imagine a time where cons where you don't see 150 guys dressed as Michael. You know, back in the day, like we've talked about many times on this channel, you know, I had to bootleg my outfit together, you know, with a black shirt button up with black pants and black shoes, and my, well, I don't know where the mask is right now, but my, you know, bunk looking Michael Myers mask that we thought was everything back in the day. Right. And I'm telling you, I was the only one in a 200-mile radius that was wearing this mask between 89 and 95. No one else was wearing this thing because Michael just wasn't, he wasn't in as pop culture like he is today. And I would think you would agree with me that that really, the baby steps of it beginning to become more in the pop culture lexicon was probably around H2O. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. I mean, people don't understand that, like, again, I mean, Halloween, Michael Myers wasn't a thing. It's not that he wasn't anything, but in comparison, it's relative.
Right.
So when you compare it to Jason and Freddy and what they were doing at the box office and in the pop culture, and it was just insane. And Michael was nowhere to be seen. And, you know, that's why when you were a kid trying to dress up as Michael Myers, people would mistaken you for Jason. They would say, no, the guy, you know, you'd say, no, the guy with the white mask, Halloween. Yeah. Jason, right. It was such an anomaly to be able to find somebody that actually recognized you as Michael Myers. And the Michael Myers masks that we would buy in the late 80s to early 90s we thought they looked like Michael Myers, but in retrospect, when you look at them now, oh, not even close. Even the Trick or Treat Studios masks look light years ahead of anything that we had in the early to mid 90s. So you're right. It wasn't until the resurgence of horror, thanks to Scream in 1996, there was a resurgence of horror in the mid to late 90s where you got Scream, Halloween H2O, I Know What You Did Last Summer, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legends, The Faculty, you know, all these.
I forgot about that movie.
Right. So in the mid to late 90s, there was this resurgence of horror. And H2O was a big part of that. And thanks to H2O, Michael Myers was reintroduced, very much like what's happened today because of H18. It was reintroduced into the pop culture at a time when horror itself was having a resurgence. So it's not just it's another Halloween movie, because we had a Halloween movie in 1995, only 3 years earlier. Only 3 years earlier. But in 1995, it was 1 year before Scream. And it was not the same. But within that, thanks to Scream, it just catapulted this resurgence of horror. And then H2O comes out. And of course, you got Jamie Lee Curtis back, and it's tying into the first two movies and blah, blah, blah. And it was when you watch H2O, it's very pop culture-y. It's very much that time period. And yes, it's because of that movie that Michael Myers is as popular as he is today. And the reason why we're having this conversation right now, because Michael Myers arguably today is much more popular than Freddy and Jason, period. And that's 100%.
Yeah, he's king of the mountain right now of Mount Rushmore of horror, the faces of horror. No, and you never would have thought that. I mean, 30 years ago, there's no way. We were talking about this off camera before we went on the air. 30 years ago, there's no way I would have thought I'd be talking to some dude up in Canada live on a video streaming channel. about a movie that we all passionately love. And, you know, there's one thing that I've argued this with many people, especially the comic book world. One thing that I will say about the Halloween community and the fan base, we'll disagree. We'll have our debates on, you know, certain things that happen in the franchise, certain movies and whatnot. But I've never seen it escalate to a level of where it gets to that fanatic like it does with comics and it does with like Star Wars stuff. You know, Halloween, yeah, you can debate, you can talk about it, share your opinions, but ultimately it's a very unique community of people that I've met over the years who love the movies just as much as I do. And then the crazy thing is that there's no like stereotype, like, you know, like, oh, Marilyn Manson looking dude or this looking dude or this looking dude. Like, you can never pinpoint who is a Halloween fan, which is, I think, what makes this franchise so unique and so great at the same time.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is, I mean, obviously there's the horror community by and large is a much more, it's a different type of quote unquote nerd.
It's almost like a family. It really is.
It is. Yeah, it is. It's a different type of person, a stereotypical horror sort of individual. So no, you're right. The animosity and the vile sort of toxicity that you see in the Star Wars fandom is not the same as it is in horror or Halloween. But yeah, I mean, and you know, you have to keep in mind too, because of H2O, then you get Resurrection in 2002. But then you have zombies films in 07 and 09. Well, in that time, there's no Friday the 13th movie. There's no Elm Street film. You get an Elm Street film. Sorry, you get a
Freddy.
That's true. Fair enough. That's true. In 2003, you do get a Friday the 13th remake in 2009, and you also get a Elm Street remake in 2010. But neither of those films were really well received, regardless of what the chat room feels about them on a personal level. Friday the 13th, I think, did well opening weekend and then just fell apart the next. That's why there was never another one. Same with the Elm Street film as well, is that it did okay initially, but it fell off immediately. Right. And people have to understand that when it comes to box office, when you have a property that comes to box office, it's not just about opening weekend. When you have a bona fide property that has a lot of nostalgia and emotional attachment to it, it's really, you always hope it does well opening weekend, of course, but it's not really, the studios are not necessarily just looking at the opening weekend, they're looking long term. And if the film makes a lot of money opening weekend but falls apart right after that, that's not good. A studio would much rather actually have a movie open okay, but continue to make money further down the road because of word of mouth, and it's spreading, and and there's like this snowball effect. Because then that indicates that there's positivity surrounding the property, which also indicates the potentiality of more. Well, it didn't happen with Elm Street or the Friday the 13th film. So, you know, a lot of people really liked it, and it made money. It certainly did. But it didn't make as much as they wanted it to. And it also didn't have the cachet that they wanted it to. So Freddy and Jason have struggled a lot in the time that Michael was doing relatively well. Even Rob Zombie's films did okay against their budget. The first one better than the second one, but you know, I mean, yeah, Michael's very popular, and Michael's popular. Well, we'll get into that. I'll save that for later. But there's a very specific reason why Michael is. It's not just the timing. There's a very specific reason why Michael is more popular.
Question for you.
Sure.
What is it about this franchise, about Halloween, for you personally? What drew you to this? Because the irony of all of this, and we talked about this briefly, I don't want to say in love, but we geek out over a serial killer. Ultimately, he's a serial killer, is what Michael Myers is. You know, so it's kind of weird how, you know, people don't look at you like you're a little off. You know, why? Like you're glorifying a mass murderer. So what is it for you, Dave, personally? What drew you to this franchise? Besides your brother, I know that, but like, what is it about this franchise that like sets it aside from everything else?
Well, that's great, because that's exactly what I was just about to talk about before I said we'll talk about that later. The reason why I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but I think there's a strong evidence for this, even if some people might be unaware of the reasons why they're drawn to Michael Myers, is it is the way John Carpenter initially created the character, the anonymity and the mystique that surrounds the mystery of who he is and where he comes from and why he's doing what he's doing. We don't know why. We know why Jason is doing what he's doing. We know why Freddy is doing what he's doing. But we don't know why. We know why Chucky is doing what he's doing. At least we initially did. He wanted a body to take over, so he's possessed and all that kind of stuff. Michael Myers is one of those few characters that lacks reason, lacks motive. And there's an aura of mystique around that we are drawn to. We're drawn to it in real life situations, whether it's Charles Manson, Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, whatever the case is, we are drawn to this almost this supernatural sort of flavor about these sometimes real life characters as well. And Michael Myers had that. He was the 6-year-old child that seemingly, now remember, we're talking about the very first movie, who seemingly for no reason murdered his sister. Why? Because he's purely and simply evil. Well, that's some fans take that very literally to mean that he is the embodiment of evil. I've always sided with Carpenter is that yes, he means that he's evil, but he means it metaphorically as well. He's not like he's this spiritual being that, is this weird entity or whatever. He is what he's doing. He lacks empathy. And when somebody lacks empathy, or lacks sympathy or reason, they can embody what we perceive as just pure evil. It's just, they're so cold and calculated. There's nothing there. And that's what little 6-year-old Michael Myers was. And when you hear Dr. Loomis explaining to Sheriff about all this, there's this sense of mystery and mystique that surrounds who this individual is. And we as human beings, and I say we, but I'm talking about me, as well. I became so attracted to that mystery and that what is it that makes this guy tick, and that perpetual state of trying to figure something out, right? It's that we all love good mysteries, whether it's UFOs or Bigfoot or murder mysteries, true crime, whodunits, we love that kind of stuff. And Michael Myers is sort of like the original, was very much like that. So I was always attracted to the way Carpenter just created that character. And even though in the subsequent sequels, they destroyed that and they gave him a motive and they made him literally supernatural with no human quality about him at all. There was a level of mysteriousness to him that was maintained because he never spoke, and you never really got anywhere beyond that. But for me, it was all about that real integrity of that first movie and the second movie. I mean, even though the second movie opened up that motive, because he was killed at the end, it was almost like they killed him just in time before it became too crazy. So that's what, and I think that mystery that surrounds the legend of that first movie and where he comes from, and the legend of the mystique of this and what the mask represents, and the metaphor of the blank, pale, emotionless face. Like when Dr. Loomis says this blank, pale, and emotionless face. Well, what is that? That's the Michael Myers mask. Now, Dr. Loomis is not talking about the Michael Myers mask. He's talking about the kid.
Right.
But what else does that symbolize? The Michael Myers mask. Do you think it's a sheer coincidence that Carpenter said, yes, let's go? Of course not. It's on purpose. It's a human face. That's what he wanted initially, was he wanted just a neutral human face, and Tommy Lee Wallace brought back a couple of options like the clown mask and the sad sack clown and all that kind of stuff. But eventually, that's what I wanted. He sent Tommy out with the idea of getting a human face that is just sort of emotionless, because it reminded him of from that movie. I forget the name of it now, but a movie that Carpenter saw in the 60s or the 50s or whatever it was. But anyway, so
thank you, William Shatner.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So yeah, not to not to go off on too much of a tangent, but that is it. It's the mystique and the mystery that surrounds the origins of Michael Myers and that unknown aspect that I was drawn to, and most everybody else was drawn to as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it is about this franchise. Like I said, it is seriously a massive love-hate relationship. I mean, for 30 years, you've had great moments and you've had, disappointing moments. And yet you still hang in there. You still have hope. You'll still go and support the movies. Even this new 2018 film and its inevitable sequel that's probably coming down the road here. You're gonna support it. It's like, that stepbrother of yours that annoys the crap out of you, but you know what? When he's got a big game, you're gonna be there to support him. That's what this franchise has meant to me, going back to 1989, first seeing this film. And then just, going to see, Halloween 6 for the first time in theaters. That was the beginning of the first letdown, like, wait a second, the first 5 minutes of the film, I'm like, okay, there's no Danielle Harris. What the fuck? And you have to remember back in 95, and I've said this before, I had no clue she wasn't going to be in the movie. It's not like we had the infancy of the internet, but I didn't have it in my home and I wasn't really using it in school.
Right.
So no clue. I knew the movie was coming because I saw it in previews to The Crow when The Crow had come out. It was and in that preview, it was Halloween 666, the origin, right? Origin of Michael Myers.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Yes, and there's a trailer voiced by the late great Don LaFontaine, who I had the pleasure of. When I was in Hollywood just a couple of months ago, I actually was able to see his grave, and I exchanged a couple of emails with him about 10 or 12 years ago, which was really cool. Of course, he's the granddaddy of the modern movie trailer voiceover. That's where all the famous. That's what everybody, including myself, sort of try to emulate. So, but there's a trailer online with his voice where it actually does say Halloween 6 or 666, the origin of Michael Myers. There's a trailer for that.
There is. And that was like, okay, that's all I saw. And you didn't see, characters. You saw the man in black, and, you saw a quick couple shots of Michael, and then you heard the theme, and then that was that. Okay, cool. It's coming this summer or whatever. That was the beginning of Halloween being shown in the middle of the summer because, it's just logic, right? Let's show a film called Halloween in August. But again, as I was starting to say here, that was, the first time where the franchise, let you down. And I remember my girlfriend at the time who I took to see this, she saw the look on my face of just that pure disappointment of like, what the hell is going on here? Why did they recast? We had no clue that they were recasting. And then on top of recasting, they kill off her character in the first act of the film, which again, kind of deflates this whole, like, I remember that night going to the theater for the first time, and prior to that, seeing the movie, just super amped, super excited because I'm finally seeing a Halloween movie, a new one, for the first time on the big screen. I'd never seen that before, and like you, that was yours as well too.
It was, yes, it was.
But even when you take the bad with the good. I can't say that about many other franchises or films, that are out there. You know what I mean? Where it's like, okay, yeah, Resurrection isn't one of my favorites, but if I happen to catch, I don't own it, but if I do, if it's on TV, I'll probably stop for a little bit and go, oh yeah, and maybe check it out for a little bit or whatever, because it's a Halloween film. Just because you don't own all of them doesn't mean you're any less of a fan. It just, I firmly believe don't waste your money on stuff you don't want to have, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
But can you think of anything else where there is that love-hate relationship and you still stick with it no matter what? I can't think of anything. Besides,
well, I think some fans probably. No, I mean Star Wars probably for some. Although I am proud to say that I said I didn't like The Last Jedi, and I have not purchased The Last Jedi on Blu-ray because I'm not going to be a hypocrite and say that I think it's a shitty movie and go out and buy it and use the excuse of, but I'm a completist, I have to buy everything. No, I don't have that movie. But anyway, if you
look.
If you do, well, okay, fine, you do. But no, it's Halloween is a very beloved franchise, but it wasn't always like that, like
No.
we said, and it wasn't until after H2O, and not that H2O I think is a good movie, because I don't. I mean, I really don't like the film at all. But.
Yeah, with that movie, man, that movie has not aged with me at all. I loved it in '98. You know, I thought it was great at the time. But after like 20 years now, that movie is like so at the bottom of my list of Halloween films. I mean, I own it, but when you watch it now today, you kind of look at it and go, no.
Yeah, it was made very much. It's got a very well, like I said, it's got a very pop culture-y vibe to it. I mean, of course, the movie takes place in California, so certainly it doesn't look like the Midwest. It doesn't look like fall or autumn at all. It's got, I've always said, you know, it looks like Michael Myers walked onto the set of Dawson's Creek. You know what I mean? It's very, now there are people that love that movie and people who grew up with that movie, and there's a lot of nostalgia for that film, and that's fine. But I saw it, believe it or not, I saw it 3 times in the movie theater. And I know what people are probably going to start thinking. Well, if you didn't like it so much, why'd you see it 3 times? Because at the time that it came out, I was actually working at a movie theater and I could see it for free. So I never paid for it.
Well, not even that, at the time, it was actually a really good film. You know, when you look at it in the viewer mind of us, we're what? We're 20 years, almost 20 years old at the time. We're 19 years old. Yeah. 19-year-old kids, you know, at the time, this was the best Halloween film that we're getting on screen. Well, and to compare it to 6.
And something you have to keep in mind as well, merchandise and things that were available in regards to Halloween were very difficult. It was very difficult to get anything or see anything Halloween. And at that time, you would be more likely to see A Nightmare on Elm Street on TV than you would any of the Halloween films. There was something, I don't know if it was Trancas International, if it was a rights issue, but anything Halloween was very difficult to get your hands on. So watching Halloween H2O in the movie theater, it wasn't necessarily because I thought it was a great movie. It was just, it was all we had. And it was cool to go and see Michael on screen, you know, but of course, I mean, even at 19, there were, I remember talking with my friends saying, oh, you know, they should have done this. I don't know why they did that. I don't know why they did this. But of course, I wasn't paying for it. And sometimes I would go with a couple of friends who hadn't seen it yet, and I would get them tickets because I could get me in a ticket for free to somebody else, you know. So it was one of those things where Halloween H2O is very much, watching it now, it's very much a reflection of its time. Yeah, just the look of it, where you can look at the original, for example, which isn't a perfect movie. There are a lot of people that say, oh, Dave, you have your rose-colored, you know, glasses on when you talk about the original film, and I don't. I can certainly point to things that are, it's a dated movie. There's a lot of things about it that are dated now.
Well, it's funny because I've heard you use the Dawson's Creek reference many times, and anytime I see H2O now, all of a sudden when Michelle Williams walks onto the scene, I'm like, I don't want to wait to love to be old. Like literally, because of you, because of that Dawson's Creek reference.
There you go. There, hopefully it'll spill over into the rest of the chat room, but it's one of those things where I was very, like when you watch the original Halloween, what I mean by dated is, what I mean by H2O being dated is that it yes, it's a 70s, sorry, the original is a 70s movie, but there's no, it's kind of hard to say. It's the theme of the movie and the way it's playing out doesn't feel very much like it's something that could take place at any time in any decade. It looks like a 70s movie because it was shot in the 70s. Halloween H2O, because of the way television was at that time and the shows that were on TV at that time and the actors that were hot on TV at that time, you know, because of, you know, your Michelle Williams, and because, you know what I mean? Like it felt very much like, of course, the movie industry had changed as well. And they were capitalizing on that. It looked like a television show with Michael Myers in it, which is why I always use that. It just looks like an episode of Dawson's Creek or whatever the case was. And you have Michael Myers showing up. I think what would have helped that movie a lot is if it had taken place in the quote unquote Midwest. I think just the atmosphere alone would have helped it a lot. So you know, I mean, again, I mean, for me, Michael, the series for me has always been the first two Halloween films. I look at that as the complete series, but I've often said that you can even look at the original as one movie itself as well. And it is. It was designed, for those of you that don't know this or understand this, the original Halloween was designed, its intent was to be a one-off film. And the moral of the whole thing is, Jamie Lee Curtis says, you know, it was the boogeyman. Donald Pleasance says, matter of fact, it was, and that's it. He looks over and he's gone, and then you hear his breathing and he's everywhere, and that's the message of the movie. It was a Hitchcockian film. It wasn't meant to be explained who he was or where he came from or why he was doing what he was doing. And Laurie wasn't his sister. Two, I like, because they were able to, you know, bring it back and do some things that I quite enjoyed. The reveal of the motive is unnecessary. I understand why Carpenter did it. I think I only like the movie as much as I do because he dies, quote unquote, at the end of the movie. It felt like, okay, it felt like a compromise. It felt like, okay, I will open this up a bit more. Carpenter, I will open this up a bit more and give a motive, but you have to let me kill him. And that, I was like, okay, we'll give you your motive, but you can kill him. And Carpenter, and those who say, no, he didn't die. No. The original, he did die. Because remember, the original plan was to go then to an anthology route. Right. That was the plan. And then you have Halloween 3. That plan didn't work. So they returned. And then, of course, there was a rights thing. John Carpenter wrote a script for Halloween 4 that was a little too cerebral. Mustafa Akkad wanted a physical Michael Myers actually there, and John Carpenter walked away. And we know the whole thing.
Have they ever released a thing, Carpenter's Halloween 4 script?
It might be available online. Somebody in the chat might be able to know. It might be available online.
I've just never seen it. I would love to read what his vision of Halloween 4 would have been.
Yeah, it was, from my recollection, and I stand to be corrected on the details, but my recollection is it had been 10 years since Halloween, since the 1978 massacre. And the town of Haddonfield had banned Halloween. So you cannot celebrate at all. And it was that suppression of the memory of Michael Myers, that suppression, that almost moving on, pretending like it didn't happen, and that created, that almost brings him back. So it's almost like this suppression, this thing that I don't like, that we're all trying to suppress. The town has banned Halloween. You can't go trick or treating. You can't put up any decorations. It's that suppression that actually, ironically, brings him back. And it was a very cerebral sort of psychological component to the movie. I thought it sounded like a really cool idea, because I understand that.
Interesting. That would have been very cool to see.
Very cool to see. Mustafa Akkad didn't like it. And he wanted to actually, have Michael there. And
I understand why. You're talking 1980s. In the 80s, man, you needed your big gun there. You needed Michael in the movie. That's what they were doing back in the day. They were making movies were made totally different than they are today. And I think that's what sometimes people forget that,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
3 didn't work, even though I still think the anthology films today would work fine. And I really hope they give us those, continuing making, Halloween Season of the Witch type movies.
I hope so too. I mean, like as I was just saying, people forget, like, Michael did die at the end of 2. Now you could say, well, no, he didn't, because you have 4. No, but if you go back to making 2, that was it, because that plan was to go to the anthology route and not continue with Michael Myers. The plan didn't work, so the plan was changed. But at that moment in time, Michael is dying. He is dead. That was the plan. And I think that's why it worked in some ways, even though Carpenter created this weird motive that he doesn't even like. He did that because he had to do that, because if he didn't, he just would have been making the same movie over again. So he had to give some sort of reason, but they compromised and killed him. So it's just as they bring it, they're like, okay, but we're going to kill him. It works in some sort of weird, convoluted way. There's a lot to like about part 2. There's a lot that is very different from the original that they stray away from for obvious reasons, because they had to compete with the larger slasher films that were beginning to come up around them in terms of the blood and the violence. But Dean Cundey was still the DP, and that's why it feels very much like a Halloween film, because there's a lot of the visual cues and aesthetic that was very similar.
Yeah.
So, but three, three is a good movie. Three's a good movie.
Three is no pun. Three is in my top 3 of my favorite Halloween films.
Yeah, it's a good movie. If that movie had come out not connected to the series and it had just been called Season of the Witch, I don't think I don't think it's a great movie, but it's
80s sci-fi horror movie. That's what it's intended.
That's exactly. And it works well like that. And 3 was on, of course, TV back around Halloween on AMC, and I hadn't seen it in a while, so I stopped and I watched it, and I was like, yeah, you got I believe Carpenter did the music for it, right? And Tommy Lee Wallace directed it.
Yep.
And Dean Cundey was the DP on it. So I mean, I think he was anyway.
Loomis, who played
I said to be corrected, but I think he was.
Yeah, Nancy Loomis, who played Annie, was the wife, even though she's only in like one scene.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it feels
like a Halloween movie, like, because it's. I mean, you got that October fall vibe, and like I said, it's a fun. If you look at it from a fun sci-fi B horror movie, you can have a blast with that film.
Right, and people have to understand that Halloween 3 didn't succeed, not because, again, I don't think it's a great movie, but Halloween 3 did not succeed, not because it was a bad movie. It was because this is 1982, I think it was, or 3.
Yeah.
This is at a time, there's no internet. Okay. I mean, there's no, I mean, this is at a time when nobody knew what Halloween 3 was about until the trailers began to drop. Some would go to the theater. People were expecting to see Michael Myers. There was no buffer zone. Today, as much as the internet is really frustrating because of the spoilers and everything that happens in terms of spoilers, the one thing that can be good is the internet can act as a buffer zone where you can sort of, have that, you can prepare people for what you're about to see. Like, for example, my sister, who saw The Force Awakens, she loved it. And then the next year, a year later, comes out Rogue One. Well, she's not, into the movie culture like we are. So she was like, is that the sequel to Rogue, or like, is that the sequel to Force Awakens? And I had to explain to her, no, it's this prequel. It's so she didn't go seeing it expecting to see Rey, Poe, and Finn. And have this kind of.
My niece, who's a Rey fan, she's now part of this new young Star Wars generation, and she's like, "Where's Rey?" And I'm like, I have to explain to a 9-year-old how this is working out,
Right. Exactly. But you and I are only able to do that because of the internet and the way we receive information today.
Right.
If this was 1982, you and I would be going, I don't know.
Yep.
Your guess is as good as mine. I have no fucking idea why Halloween Season of the Witch has no Michael Myers in it. Like, we wouldn't know either.
And was Fangora out at that? Was Fangora magazine around at that time?
It may have been. Yes,
so that really would have been your source.
Right. Horror magazines would have been sources, but not everybody's buying horror magazines. No. Right. And not every film goer or film buff is buying those magazines. So, I mean, it would be it's the way we receive and send information would have been very different. So it didn't do well, not because it was a bad movie, but because it was like, what is this? I don't get it. So people were not prepared going into the movie. I mean, there were a lot of people, don't get me wrong, there were a lot of people that knew exactly what it was, but there were enough people that didn't know, that were not prepared going into the movie and were stunned. Today, the word anthology and those kinds of movies are in the pop culture consciousness.
Yep.
And so the probability of a Halloween anthology film, I'm not saying that people want it, but the probability of a Halloween anthology film doing better today is higher.
Oh, yeah. And there's some novels out there that Carpenter has written, and I highly recommend you guys checking them out if you haven't read them. They're really good. That I think that would be a base to start from, to look into and go, maybe we've got something here, you know? Look, I understand. I get it. We all want Michael. He's the face of the franchise, like Jason's the face of the franchise. I get it. But like, you know, Dave has said this many, many times, and we'll get back to 3 and the first 2 films here. I just want to say this really quick. The franchise, Michael and Jason and Freddy, they all have a shelf life. And at some point, it's gotta end. And you either gotta branch out, figure out something new with it, or it will, like it did before, it'll get stale and the well will run dry and we'll be stuck in limbo for another decade or so. But I agree with you with what you were saying with 1 and 2. 2 definitely was a definitive, clear cut. It's done. He's dead. It's over. Let's move on. That's what it was. There's no debate on it. And whether or not people want to try to debate, I mean, that's what Carpenter has said that many times, right? Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So there is no debate on it. And I agree with you. 1 could be just considered as a one-off film. It really is it is almost the picture perfect way to make a movie. Simple, easy, and just get to the point and get your message across, and that's what Halloween does.
It is Halloween 1 is the quintessential boogeyman, ghost story, trick-or-treat, Hitchcockian movie. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's why it works so well as a one-off, because the moral and message of the movie is, oh, it was the boogeyman after all. Oh, shit. And then you see he's gone. How did he survive? We don't know. And you hear him breathing, and then the credits just roll. That's it. It ends like a Hitchcock movie. It's like, oh, shit, what a cool little ghost story. And then, but of course, you know, there's 2. I just want to capitalize on something you said. And, you know, when it comes to sequels, you have to, I've said this many times, and it's true, that the more sequels they make, the shittier the movies will become. It's inevitable. And excuse me, I warned that with 2 people about this new film, the Halloween 18 film. You might be able to get one good sequel out of it, but you are extremely naive if you think that the Halloween 2018 movie is the beginning of a successful, wonderful, long series. I mean, it's not. But then you have to ask yourself, it's all about standards. You as a Halloween fan, what do you want? Do you want really good Michael Myers movies? Or do you not give a fuck whether the movies are good or not? They could be the shittiest fucking movies ever, but you get Michael Myers, and therefore you're happy. If that's your standards, then that's fair. Own it, say it, live with it. That's fine. Yeah,
there is one exception to the rules on modern movie storytelling sequels. That is Tom Cruise. For whatever reason, Tom Cruise has found the fucking formula with Mission Impossible, because his sequels are just getting fucking better. But that's like a 1 in a million out there.
But I'm talking about horror sequels.
I got you. I know.
That follow I mean, it's because you have to understand that the Mission Impossible films are different stories as well.
Exactly.
So they're very much like James Bond or Indiana Jones. And, you know, if you know what you're doing, you can follow the same character if he's involved in different types of things, right? But so that's what it comes down to. For me, and I'm not saying nobody else has standards. For me, my standards are, I want a good Halloween movie. That's what I want. And if I've always believed that the way the character of Michael Myers was created, the way he was birthed from the pages of John Carpenter's typewriter, the way he was birthed, he has a shelf life because of the type of villain antagonist he is. He works best in small doses. Freddy and Jason are different. They're different. They have different backgrounds, different motives, different aesthetics, they're different characters. You might be able to get longer, you know, more films out of them. Doesn't mean they can go on forever, but you might be able to get more films out of them because of the way they were birthed, the different types of characters they are. So it comes down to what you want. If you don't give a fuck about quality and you want quantity, well, then that's where your bar is. I'm a quality over quantity guy when it comes to Halloween, because he's special. Michael's not like everybody else, and he shouldn't be like everybody else. And the more shitty sequels you make, you water him down to being just like everybody else. And if that's what you want, and if you don't care about that, and you just want Michael Myers movies until you're 90, okay, fine. But don't expect good Michael Myers movies. So, and I'm not fully convinced they're going to make a sequel to this new movie. I think they probably will, but it wouldn't surprise me if they don't.
Well,
But
what
anyway,
you're saying is true because, I mean, just use common sense. Okay, you look up anything on YouTube, you look up merchandise sales. When you look at what's talked about the most, the original Halloween film is talked about the most, obviously. The merchandise from the original Halloween film, that is sold the most. After that, it's Halloween 4. You look it up on YouTube. There are more videos on Halloween 4 that are talked about than there is Halloween 2. Merchandise sales for Halloween 4 that go out real fast. The t-shirts go real fast. I know. I look at Fright Rags. I look at all the places that sell the merch, and those are the ones that are very hard to find. So you base it on that, and what you're saying here, it is true. There's reasons why we don't spend time talking about Halloween 5, Halloween 6, H2O, Resurrection, and Rob Zombie's Halloween, because nobody really likes talking about the films. You know, I mean, yeah, you always try to look for the good in everything, and I'm a firm believer in that, but it's just ultimately it comes down to really of a waste of your time because you can't there's not much positive to say about that. So what you're saying in regards to the sequel and all that, it's totally true. And there's a reason why fans only talk about certain ones in this franchise.
Well, and yes, and the thing is, I get asked a lot, and I know there are people in the chat room right now, Dave, you know, what are your thoughts on Rob Zombie's films? I don't like Rob Zombie's films. Those are my thoughts. I don't like them. I acknowledge that they are Rob Zombie is not just a specific kind of filmmaker. He's a specific kind of guy. Okay, it's not Rob Zombie looks like the kind of guy that would direct the movies he makes. Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. He looks like the kind of guy that would direct. It's not like you look at me. Look at me. Do I look like the kind of guy that would dish out, you know, The House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Reject? That doesn't mean I couldn't. Yeah. But you look at me and you say, no, you know, you look at Rob Zombie and you go, yeah, that makes sense. He looks like the kind of guy that is interested in that subject matter. He is that would write a script that had skull fuck you in the first 5 minutes of a movie.
His look is his brand.
Absolutely. And he's into that. He likes and I can respect that. There's one thing I respect about Rob Zombie. It's he makes the movies he wants to make. He doesn't give a fuck what anybody else thinks, whether you like them or not. Now, when it comes to Rob Zombie's films, he made it his own. He did. Well, the first one was his own, but it was very much in, you know, there was a lot of sort of, you know, you could see the original there. He was trying to make it his own. The reason why he came back and did the second movie is because Trancas basically said, do whatever the fuck you want. Do whatever the fuck you want, because he wasn't going to come back.
Put all his energy in the first like opening sequence at the hospital, because after that, the movie fucking fell apart.
Yeah, it was a great opening. I love mood and atmosphere.
Yeah.
So I quite like that.
Yeah, it's that the hospital scene in Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is probably one of my favorite Halloween scenes. Yeah. It is so well acted by Scout. I mean, she did a tremendous job. And even what's his name there? Freaking Andre.
Tyler Mane.
Yeah, Tyler Mane.
Tyler
He
Mane,
did a good job at playing Michael in that. That whole just the suspense filled up of him chasing her around. I personally, I know some fans are going to get pissed at me in saying this. I think that those brief 2 to 3 minutes, however long that scene is better than the whole hospital scene in Halloween 2, 1981. Just the way the suspense and the drama was really built up. But having said that, the movie falls apart real fast after that scene, you know, and it's just, I just think he put everything into that moment and then says like, fuck this, I'm done.
Yeah. And like I said, I mean, I just don't, they're not my kind of movies. They're just, he doesn't make movies that appeal to me. So Rob Zombie's Halloween is a hick white trash version of a movie that and it's just like, it's, you know, it's, it doesn't appeal to me. And he destroys, for lack of a better word, removes, let's say, I'll sugarcoat it a bit. He removes one of the fundamental things that made Michael Myers so appealing. Right. In my opinion, which was
Loomis on top of that.
Right. Which was lack of motive. He gives Michael Myers a motive. Now, that's fine. I mean, it's some people like it, some people don't. For me, I am not a fan of the movies because they don't appeal. I don't like Rob Zombie's movies, period. I didn't mind The Devil's Rejects because I could watch it for what it was. Yeah. I don't like, by and large, whether it's A House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, 31, the one he's doing now, which is the sequel to The Devil's Rejects. I don't care. He's just not my kind of filmmaker. I didn't grow up like him. I didn't grow up listening to the music he listens to. I didn't grow up into that culture of torture porn, shock. You know, I don't care about it. It's just not my thing. So if he's making a Halloween movie that's like that, I respect the shit out of him for doing that and making it his own and not giving a, because in this business, that's what you got to do. He made it his own. And he, you know, if you like it, great. If you don't, okay, I'm proud of them. Good for you, Rob. That's just not me.
Yeah.
It's just not me. And so when I watch them, I go, I don't like this. So I think I can see the appeal for some, and there's certain things in it that I go, I like that. Oh, I like what he did there. He's a good filmmaker.
I said that about what's her Scout's performance as Laurie. I thought her performance in dealing with the post-traumatic stress after the events of Halloween, because we never really saw that with Jamie Lee Curtis's character until now. I thought her portrayal of it was really good. Unfortunately, the whole white horse and fucking tripping balls shit, just everything surrounding it, and Dr. Loomis prima donna. No, it wasn't like, I just felt like, I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if he was just on a bad acid trip or what the hell was going on that production, but nothing was coherent at times. I mean, Harris was great. I mean, her performance was fine. It was very, you know, it was a very simple performance. She was at her house pretty much the whole time until her off-screen kill, which sucked, you know, for Halloween fans. But yeah, I agree with you. There are moments in the film that are like good, but it's a total fucking shit. It's like basically, you know, a bunch of kindergarten kids got together and say, hey, we're going to make a movie. Here you go. And I hate saying that because, you know, look, I respect, you know, Scout's performance, Malcolm McDowell's performance, and Tyler's performance, and Daniel Harris's performance. I am not shitting on the actor's performance at fucking all.
It has nothing to do with that.
Right.
Yeah, no, it has nothing. It has nothing to do with Tyler Maine. It has nothing to do now as a creative. It has nothing to do with it. In Rob's look, Rob was given the keys, okay, and he was said, write a script. We're gonna remake Halloween. You know, you don't have to do it a beat for beat. Just you know, make it your own, Rob. That's what he did. The fuck, I'm not complaining about that. It's just, but if somebody says, do you like it? No, I don't. I don't like it. It's not what I would have. It's not what I would have done, because for me, I see he changed the formula. He changed the formula. And for me, the formula is the integral part of what makes Michael Myers so great. And so cool. I mean, in Rob Zombie's films, Michael Myers is just Jason, essentially, or Leatherface. I mean, he's this big, brooding, hulking guy with an awful backstory of abuse and, you know, whatever it was. I mean, that's essentially what he is.
Yeah.
And so that's fine. Okay, cool. That's what he is in Rob Zombie's films, essentially. Okay. In a Halloween-y film.
Yeah.
But for me, I prefer the original formula of the character, because that's what made Michael so special. Well, and that's why he's different. There's a very specific reason why we like him. And I'm not a big fan of that kind of a horror movie. They have its place, but I like films that genuinely scare me and creep me out, and gore and, you know, I'll go fuck you, bitch. I mean, that doesn't, you know, okay, so, you know, it just doesn't do much for me.
I do like the first Rob Zombie's first Halloween that he did. You know, the one thing that the positives that I will say with that film is, one, when I watch Scout's performance, I don't think of Jamie Lee Curtis. She made Laurie Strode her own, and I like that. I like that I'm not, you know, thinking about, you know, Laurie or Jamie Lee Curtis, that she's mimicking Jamie. Like, she did none of that. She embraced it. She made it her own. Same thing with Malcolm McDowell. Malcolm McDowell made the Loomis character his own. I kind of liked his, you know, kind of jokingness there at the beginning when he first comes into the scene there with the long hair, and he's talking to Sherry Moon and the other dude there, the principal and whatnot. And then I like that you begin to see a little bit of the relationship between Michael and Dr. Loomis in this movie. Because, you know, in the original film, you don't really see much of it. You know, you don't see Dr. Loomis interacting with Michael at all. I mean, he's pretty much chasing him down. It's a cat and mouse game throughout the whole film, you know, until the climax of the ending. So I do like that. I am okay with that in Rob's original version of it, but I agree with you. The whole torture porn, you know, white trash. It just, like, what made the original Halloween so great versus to, I sort of wish Rob had stuck with it in that formula in his vision, but did everything else the same, is what's creepier is when something happens in a normal neighborhood that doesn't belong there. So when you see the opening of the original film, it's a white house, quiet neighborhood. You know, Cundy comes out there with the camera. You're following the camera up to the house. Everything's peaceful and quiet. Nothing looks out of the normal. Then, you know, Michael kills Judith. Now all of a sudden shit is it's not supposed to be there. This is not supposed to happen in this house. You know, Michael's parents show up there at the end, or the end of that scene there. Looks like a normal dad, you know, dressed in a suit. I think he was dressed in a suit. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. And the mom standing there, you know, and, you know, they just look like two normal parents, you know, wondering what the fuck happened. Although I've said this for many years. I said, Carpenter, could you have not given that woman any more direction than having her hands in her pocket while her son is standing there with a big ass butcher knife?
No. What it is like I did a video on this months ago, and I knew this prior to getting confirmation from Dean Cundy. Okay. But there's an interview I did with Dean Cundy from Halloween, the Halloween 40th anniversary convention, where he confirmed this. I said to him, "This is what you were doing, right?" And he said, "Yes, that is what we were doing." And there's that, it's called a cinematic tableau. And I did a video months ago on this, where that's one of the things that always gets sort of laughed at a bit is the camera. And I know, you know what it is, but the camera pans back and the parents are just standing looking at the kid with the knife, not moving, not saying anything. And a lot of people take that as, why aren't they saying anything? I don't get it. It makes no sense. It should be going, Michael, my God, what are you doing, Michael? What's the blood in the knife? Oh my God, running into the house, that kind of stuff. But it's supposed to act like a cinematic tableau. A tableau in acting is like a snapshot, a moment in time where the actors will freeze to create a you know, a picture of something. Anybody who's done improv, acting, you'll know what I'm talking about. Well, this was the cinematic version of that. You don't usually see this filmmaking technique too much nowadays in modern times. But that's what it was, is that as soon as the father removed the clown mask from Michael's face, Michael removes it. Imagine in your mind a camera going, okay, and then it because that's the reveal. Oh my God, it's a boy. Right. Oh my God, look at him. He's so sweet and innocent. Look at this horrific thing he's just done. So the camera pans back. It's on a crane. It's totally on a jib, at least. Right. It pans back upwards like this, and the parents are just there. Now, granted, to be fair, the mother does take her hand out of her, or takes her hand and puts it in her pocket. She shouldn't have moved, to be fair. But that being said, the point of the shot was to go, wow. And then you see this little boy like this, you know, and he's got this large butcher knife, and it's almost as tall as he is, for God's sakes, you know, and he's there, and the camera's pulling back, and the picture is this cute little home behind them. Exactly what Tony just said. These normal looking parents, this normal looking boy against the backdrop of something horrific. Right. It is that contrast, that 180, that, ooh, that's so eerie, that this could be anyone at any time in any town next to you.
And Rob Zombie throws that away in his film.
He throws it away.
Trailer trash, you know, it's almost like inevitable. Okay, well, you know, if I grew up in that house, so I'd probably be a nutcase as well too. You know, I mean, and that's where you lose that. I think had Rob Zombie maybe stayed on track with the normal Midwest family, middle class, you know, whatever, his remake probably would have even been that much better. I still enjoy it, but I just think you lose all of that with Michael growing up in a white trash family home.
Yeah, and I think I don't know why they chose Rob Zombie to remake the movie anyway. I mean, he would not have been my first choice unless they wanted him to make something that was a complete 180 of the original in order for it to stand out. But he would not have been my first choice, because with Rob Zombie comes a very specific style, a very specific kind of movie, you know, and so I found it an odd choice. Even back in 2006, when it was announced that they were going to do it, or early 07, I remember thinking, Rob Zombie. Okay, well, okay.
With me, I was like, oh man, is this going to be like torture?
Yeah, like I just didn't understand. And then I thought, okay. And then of course I took my then 64-year-old mother to go and see it. And of course the first 5 minutes of the movie, we're getting skull fuck you and this, that. And my mother's a big fan of the original film, you know, so that was always an awkward moment to be sitting beside my 60-year-old mother with that kind of language on the screen. You know what I mean? So, but that's it. I mean, that was one of the, Tony hit the nail right on the head, guys. That was one of the most important aspects of the opening of the original film, was that contrast. And you can argue all you want about the mother should have been more still and she shouldn't have moved her hand. You can argue that. But Dean Cundy himself said, yes, it was a snapshot in time. Go watch the interview I have with him on my channel, and I ask him that exact question to confirm it. I already know, because just what I know, but I wanted confirmation. I mean, of course, there was always a small chance that he was going to go, no, it actually was this. I'd be like, oh shit. But I was so confident that I was right that I wanted confirmation from him. And he gave it, and he goes into a bit more detail about what it was supposed to mean, this, that. So if you want to check that out, by all means, it's on my channel. But that's what it is. It's that contrast. You got this house and these two normal kids, this two normal parents, this normal child, you know, and it's like, whoa, fuck, that's creepy. Because everybody, like John Carpenter said, he said it in the Midwest. Because of it, you know, in a small town, everybody's got that house down the street where something weird happened, or the neighbor, there's something weird about the neighbor. Everybody's got a story, you know, and that's what makes it more creepy. It's like, wow, these were just normal. Like, what's creepier? You know, when you watch those true crime shows where it's like, they just seemed like a normal family. You know, the guy seemed normal. Fuck, I said hello to him yesterday morning. He came out of his house and he was like, hey, Bob. I'm like, hey, Jim. Yeah. And then he murders his entire family the next day. Fuck. That's just like, it's that sociopath. It's that narcissistic, psychotic, lacking the empathy, that's why we are attracted to this.
Right.
There is no rhyme or reason for doing it.
Why, like, you know, I mean, just look at media, look at news stories. Why do you think the news isn't covering the shootings that happen in Chicago every single day by the dozens? You know, I mean, every day people are getting shot up and killed every day. But they will sure as shit, if a small town, you know, doesn't matter what color girl it is, she gets killed in a small town that doesn't belong, that this shit should not be happening at, they will send trucks there and media coverage there for 24 hours, everything, because it doesn't belong. Anytime something happens in a setting where it doesn't belong, it creeps people out, even to this day in real world situations.
Right. And something I want to say too, because I've often believed that people take this a little too literally, but of course, because I remember, you know, there's the famous, you know, I watched him sitting in a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, looking past the wall, looking at this night, inhumanly patient. And so many people have said, how could he just be sitting in a room staring at a wall for 50? He doesn't mean it literally, that literally all he did every day, and they had to come in with pee pans and shit pans and, you know, put him under him. What the character of Loomis is trying to convey is there's nothing there. So when he says that I watched him for 15 years, sitting at a room, staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, he doesn't literally mean that's all Michael was doing for 15 years. I'm sure Michael got up, walked across the room. I'm sure he maybe was looking at a book or shit, but he didn't say anything. He was blank. He was not there. He was there was nothing behind, you know, the lights are on, but nobody's home kind of thing. And that's what he means. He's trying to illustrate that point through this poetic sort of dialogue that Carpenter wrote, that I watched him for 15 years staring at a wall, not seeing the wall, that not literally staring at a wall for 15 years doing nothing else, you know, but I'm sure there were a lot of moments where that is what he was doing. So that stood out to Loomis. So he uses that as the metaphor to basically say to the sheriff, you got to fucking take this seriously, because the sheriff's like, meh, 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 meh. You know, he's not taking him seriously. So he's trying to get him to take it seriously. So it's beautiful. And that's why we're attracted to that. It's like, ooh, that's creepy. Like, what's there? You know, and even Carpenter himself, the inspiration for Michael comes from when Carpenter was in film school or high school, whatever it was, when he visited that asylum. Something and and he saw that boy. And it was just something weird about the boy's eyes. It was like he was looking through Carpenter. That's a real story. Carpenter based Michael on somebody he saw. So he's using that inspiration. So that's why we're attracted to the root of the character. It's so mysterious and creepy and eerie. You fill that you fill that unknown with shit. And all of a sudden it becomes, some people might like it, but some people won't like it. Whereas if you keep it ambiguous, your probability goes up that we will all like it because of how we're you know, how we get scared and how fear affects us. So yeah, but you know, and then, you know, when you get to Halloween, so you had Halloween 4 and 5. 5 was
Hey, let's not skip over Halloween 4 now. Come on.
Oh, no. I said 4 and 5. I said 4 and 5. So when you get to Halloween 4, I thought Halloween 4 was a decent return to the franchise. I have issues with it,
Sure.
major issues with it, but I always thought 4, you know, considering what they were up against, you could tell that they were really trying hard to make 4 something.
Sure.
And so I still think 4 today for a lot of reasons. I ranked 4 above Halloween H18, and it has nothing. Look, James Jude Courtney is great as Michael Myers. He's better than George P. The mask is better, absolutely. But there's a grounded. It feels like fall. It looks like fall. It feels like the Midwest. Loomis is on point.
Oh,
he's a very important part of that. He's a very important part of the Halloween franchise, and that alone pushes for, you know, with some other, and the ending, of course, and it helps to push for above H18 for me. Now, if you want to have a separate conversation about who's the better Michael Myers, wow,
different story. Yeah,
it's a different story. What's the better mask? It's a different story.
I 100% agree on that. I mean, you know, 4 is my favorite in the franchise, but even I know, you know, there are elements to this movie that just fall short. You know, I do. It's weird. It's like I like James Jude Courtney's performance as Michael, but I do like George P. Wilbur's performance as Michael. There are some moments in Halloween 4 that for me are going to be iconic as a fan of the franchise. When he sits up in the bedroom there, or when he's standing there outside the doorway when James has a dream. Those are some iconic shots, you know. And like you were just talking about, Donald Pleasance's performance, and even Danielle Harris's performance as, you know, Jamie in this movie, and God, what's her name? Played Rachel, Ellie Connell, something like that.
Something like that.
Something like that. You know, even her performance as Rachel was great in this film. Everything you said is on point. You know, Halloween 4. For the writer having 11 days to write a script, they did a phenomenal job for getting the damn script done in 11 days, and what they were able to give to the movie going audience. It is, in my opinion, I think it's the best sequel in the Michael Myers storyline of the entire franchise, because they stay in continuity with the original first 2 movies anyways. They're continuing the story. We're not sidestepping. We're not choosing our new adventure here and going down this story. They stuck with it, and everybody came there and they brought their A game. If you just altered that fucking mask and got it as close as you could to the Shatner man, I get it. I understand the whole mold thing, and I get that. But if they had just tweaked it a little bit, not so pasty, not so paley, and of course not Surfer Michael Myers there in the fucking school. Okay?
Oh God,
a couple of those things, man. If they had just fixed it, there would be no debate. 4 would be the best sequel in this franchise. There'd be no debate.
But I think you're probably right. I mean, can you imagine if just the mask looked? Imagine Michael Myers in all the shots, but imagine the mask from 1 and 2.
Yeah,
it elevates that film a lot. I mean, look, there is. I mean, there's a lot to. You know, it's got a great opening. You know, with the soundscape. Alan Howard's score is great. It feels like the Midwest. It looks like fall.
They're opening the montage there of the farm. That's the best opening of all the Halloween films.
It's fantastic. And
you don't get the theme for about 5 or 6 minutes, and I love that.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Very atmosphere, mood, you know. I love that.
Oh yeah, and
I love the creepy dude at the sanitarium too.
Oh yeah. And then Loomis is like, what does he say? 6 bodies, Sheriff, from here to Richmond. A fuel station in flames.
I tell you, Mike Myers in this town.
That's what he is.
Little girl. Oh, that speech is.
Oh yeah, he's like, I'm telling you, Michael Myers is here in this town. He's here to kill that little girl and anybody who gets in his way. I mean, you can see the intensity
Right.
on his face. Loomis is one of the reasons. Look, Loomis is such an integral part of the Halloween film.
Sure.
That yeah, I mean, it was a decent return to the franchise. There's things about it that I don't like. There's things about it that I think they could have done better. But it's watchable. I mean, it's decent. It's my third favorite, of course, if you watch my ranking. And 5 is where it all goes to hell. Five was the catalyst that destroyed the franchise. Now, people often say to me, no, it was 4. No, it was 6. No, it was H2O. No, it was Resurrection. No, it was 5. And the reason why it was 5 is because 5 introduced, look, you have to understand that the only reason, and this comes from the director's mouth, the only reason, kids, that there was a man in black in Halloween 5 was because the director thought that there wasn't enough mystery in Halloween 5. That's essentially why he put that in. He had absolutely, unequivocally, no idea who the man in black was. He did not know. That is a writing 101 faux pas. Now, you can leave things ambiguous for your audience, but you as the writer or the director have to know, or there has to be an answer. Like you as the artist, there has to be an answer. So I can leave a movie ambiguous and leave it up to the audience and make you go, oh, I don't know. What do you guys think? Oh, tell us. But I have to have an idea in my mind of where I'm leaning. So he can introduce a mystery figure all he wants, but he's got to know. He's got to know why I'm doing this.
Well, not only that, I mean, when they go into the production and filming, they have half a script. The reason why Danielle Harris is a mute for half of the movie is because they were fucking lazy to not give her any fucking lines in the film because they didn't have a fucking full script done. I mean, how do you go into production without a fucking direction of where you're going in this film? And I agree with you. Everything, you know, it's sad because everything that they did, and I'm very passionate about 4, and I protect 4 as much as I can. But everything that they did in 4, from the actors delivering stellar performances, was shit on in Halloween 5. Okay, I'm fucking sorry. How does Rachel die in the first act, but some new chick that we barely know is going to sacrifice herself to save Jamie? Are you fucking kidding me? It's not going to be Rachel? I mean, I'm 12 or 11 at the time, 10 at the time. I could have directed this movie better.
Yeah. It was a very, and look, if you read up on the production, there was a lot of issues, a lot of like, what are we doing? Like, what is this a comedy? Is this, you know, I'm not like, why is this, there's this cartoon music for these cops. And what's so dumb is that the director of the movie said this. The reason why there's the cartoony music when you see the cops is because I wanted the audience to know that the cops were dumb. Do you want to know how the audience will know that the cops are dumb? Because the cops are dumb. You don't put cartoon music, like your audience is not fucking stupid. Do you want to know how we're going to know the cops are dumb? By the actions and decisions they make. That's how we know that they're incompetent.
Right.
We don't need boom, beep, beep, boom, beep, boom, beep, boom.
Oh,
It's unnecessary. It's why it's completely unnecessary. It's not. You write the cops to be incompetent. That's what you do. Right. So there's a lot. This was going on, and there was a lot of, and you know, Loomis spends half the movie. I mean, he should be in a straitjacket, for God's sakes. The house doesn't look anything like the old Myers house. It doesn't. Who is the production designer on this movie? There were look, it's not that the house doesn't look like them. It's not just that the house doesn't look like the Myers house. Okay, this wasn't shot in Pasadena.
It looks like the Monsters house.
It does. Listen, the house from Halloween 6, the Myers house from Halloween 6, okay, doesn't look like the Myers house, but it looks more like the Myers house than the one in 5. I could look at the house in 6 and go, okay, I buy it. Okay, I understand you're shooting in Salt Lake City, in that area. You're not in Pasadena. You can't use that house. You probably couldn't use the house anyway for who knows. Okay, maybe you didn't have the money to reconstruct the, you know, okay, no big deal. But it still looks like an old wartime home. You know, it's got that vibe.
Victorian home is what
exactly. The Myers house in Halloween 5 is so, it's so insulting to the audience. It's so ridiculous. There's no reason why that had to be. They sacrificed continuity for this story that this eccentric director wanted to tell. And that whoever was the producer on should have said, well, Mustafa Akkad should have said, no, it's not how you find a movie. You send your production design, you send your production designer to find a house, okay, that resembles what we know.
Right.
And we will see if we can negotiate and pay money to use it, because obviously if it's lived in, they would have to pay the owners and things like that. And you'll see what we can do. It looks nothing like, imagine, if you will, the Elm Street house, which is iconic, just as iconic as the Myers house, if not maybe even more so, because it was shown in more movies.
Yep.
Imagine if in Elm Street 3
they changed to some
complete, but 180. It's this Victorian, big, Gothic looking with pillars. You wouldn't accept it. You wouldn't accept it. You wouldn't put up with it. You wouldn't tolerate it as fans. You wouldn't. It's an insult.
Well, even I'm not going to take credit for this. Spitz said here in the chat room, and I'm just going to paraphrase because I'm not going to scroll back up. The relationship between Jamie and Rachel was so critical that the fans were so invested from Halloween 4 that to shit on that in Halloween 5 is just, it's such an insult. The whole movie is an insult to fans, but even that's why I was saying here so passionately a few moments ago, why that death scene out in the woods should not have been Tina. We had no idea who this chick was, you know, and now this chick who really, actually, when you go back to watch Halloween 5, if you were going to kill off Rachel at the beginning of the film and you wanted us as fans to be emotionally attached to someone, watch this scene over again. Everybody tonight, go back and just watch this one scene. The scene where Sammy and Tina are out there walking and Michael's walking in the daylight behind them and all that, and they don't notice him. And then her boyfriend pulls up in his car there. And, Tina's all like, yeah, well, let's sell this, and let's go riding off. And Sammy, kind of pauses and is like, hey, I thought we were supposed to go see Jamie. Tina throughout this whole film shows no concern, shows no emotional connection to want to go see Jamie, to want to, be the big sister. But we're supposed to believe she's now supposed to be the big sister. If anything, that one moment where Sammy shows that sign of concern to Jamie, you should have made Sammy then the character that we now are going to be connected to, who's going to become the new Rachel. Because fucking, as far as I'm concerned with Tina, Tina's just a bimbo that wants to be with her boyfriend who's going to sit there and go, hee, I'm insensible. I think that's literally what she does at one point in the movie.
But you also have to understand too, is that Mustafa Akkad, God rest his soul. Okay. If you're, religious like that. I said that because I don't want people to think that I'm trying to disrespect the man. Because without him, there wouldn't even be a Halloween necessarily. That doesn't mean that Irwin Yablans may have not gone to another distributor, another producer. But certainly the original Halloween we have Mustafa Akkad to thank. But when you understand Mustafa Akkad's background as a film financer and as a director and as a producer, he's not necessarily, he's the financer. He wants to make money. So the first thing on his mind is not integrity to the continuity or he wants to make money. He knows that Michael Myers was good to him financially. So he wants to make money, but he's not, and he did say, because he's been dead for a while. He said that, he said point blank, I will stop when Michael Myers reaches Halloween 20 or Halloween 30, whatever that famous.
Donald Pleasant said, right?
Yeah, it was something like that. It was something that, as we said, and only, yes, that's what somebody says who's making money, not what somebody says about the art of the. Sorry, I'm hearing an echo. I shouldn't hear an echo because you have your headphones in.
Yep. Good. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's what you get with live streaming.
Yeah, I know. That's what happens. Anyway, I don't know why. But that's it. That's essentially you know, he's obsessed with the money. He's obsessed with making it. Has nothing to do with the integrity of the series. He doesn't give a shit about that. He didn't care about. He knew what made him money, and he saw Michael as a certain. Just keep putting Michael Myers movies out there. Just keep making them. Sure, do that, because he was making money. Well, sadly, he didn't make that much money from 5. But the point I'm making is that 5 was the movie that fell off the rails.
Yep.
We had Halloween 6 because of 5. We had Halloween H2O because of 6. We had Resurrection because of H2O.
Yep.
And we had Rob Zombie's reboot because of Resurrection. But you see, if we did not have the Halloween 5 that we got, the Halloween 6 would have been totally different, and may have not given us H2O.
Yep.
Which then would never have given us Resurrection. Do you see what I mean? So you have to go back in the line and realize that it was actually 5 that was the catalyst that destroyed the franchise because of The Man in Black. And the director specifically said, I don't care. Basically, in a nutshell, I'm leaving it up to the filmmakers who do 6 to figure out who the Man in Black is. Why would you do that? So now they had to come up with a script that revolved around this man. And I don't know. Why don't we bring the Thorn cult in? Oh, we'll bring in the voodoo stuff, and and it's like, what the fuck is this?
Yep.
And it's so far away from what Michael was supposed to be about. And now you're giving him more motive. So not only is he just killing his sister or after his sister, now he's after his niece. Okay. But now you introduce a cult. So now you introduce the black magic and the voodoo and the cult and Thorn and this, and now he's artificially inseminating Jamie, and he's getting, it's like, what the fuck? It's because of 5.
Yep.
That's what it is.
No, you're right. I mean, that was the beginning of the, where the franchise just started to go downhill. I've said this many times. The last good Halloween film we've seen on the big screen that I wish I was old enough to seen it on the big screen was Halloween 4. I would have loved it. That would have been my best Halloween moment to see. I mean, I have seen it, but it's not the same seeing it for the first time on the big screen versus to the replaying that I see every year when it makes its tour around to the local theaters in October.
Yeah.
But it just, I mean, you look at it, 5 was not great. 6, my experience of going to see 6 was just absolutely I was crushed. I was crushed when I saw Curse of Michael Myers in the theaters. Like you just said, we went from just simplicity of, the speech that Pleasance gives in the original film about Michael Myers, and, I spent 15 years trying to reach him, blah, 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 that whole spiel, to now we're fucking Thorn and this cult, and he's controlled by the fucking doctor, okay, which is the worst fucking payoff in cinema history. Okay, I mean, absolutely, just like, how did we get here? And I agree with you. Had 5 not derailed, had 5 brought back the director from the original one. I understand that they were going, and there was nothing written in stone, by the way. People talk about like, well, no, the guy who directed 4, he wanted, Jamie to be, he never said he wanted Jamie to be the killer in 5. He had some ideas that he was marinating at the time, about possibly going in maybe a direction with Jamie, or Jamie as his sidekick. It was just like, kind of like what me and Dave are doing right now. We're just kind of throwing out fucking ideas. Nothing was written in stone. I would have loved to have seen, had he had maybe gotten the reins and said, you know what, this is my Halloween 5, and what we as fans might have gotten, because we might have gotten a decent trilogy with Daniel Harris's character, bookending with 6. But
it's very true, and the thing is too is that I've talked about this as well, is that you can keep the integrity in the ending of Halloween 4. You can begin Halloween 5. What should have happened was, because now you're left to assume, oh my God, is she going to start doing something bad now because she's related to him? And just, again, I want to preface this by saying, I'm not emotionally attached to the brother, sister, uncle story arc. I would prefer, I'm a purist, right? Yeah. But I can certainly speak objectively about it and talk about this and what I think they should have done and should do to give them the best chances of success. And I think what they should have done, because you're already in it now, I mean, what are you gonna do, right? is that they should have began Halloween 5 with Jamie at, an institution. She can speak. Dr. Loomis has taken on as her doctor. Okay. Rachel comes to visit her, and there's this sort of this tension throughout the first act of the movie. It's kind of like, shit, like Loomis thinks that I need, yes, exactly, I need to prevent this from starting over again. But in reality, what you do is you do bring Michael Myers back, but it's like the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. So you have your audience paying attention to all this. You're taking them one way, but then weird things begin to happen because Halloween is approaching again, and weird things begin to happen. Maybe a few people go missing, but Michael does come back, and how he comes back and why he comes back and what, that's left to be, fleshed out. But that's what should have happened. It should have been more of this focus on Jamie and the relationship between Jamie and Rachel, and Jamie and Rachel and Dr. Loomis, because those are the people you're emotionally attached to. Get rid of the Man in Black. You don't need it. Okay. You replace the Man in Black mystery with things beginning to happen with Michael. Some people think they see him maybe, and Loomis is like, that's impossible. You know what I mean? And now they're starting to build it. And then maybe somebody is murdered in the hospital where Jamie is kept, and they look to Jamie like, was it Jamie that did it? Do you know what I mean? And like, you build this mystery up, this surround, building to this epic climactic conclusion where maybe it takes place in the hospital where Jamie is, and Michael is searching for her, and he comes in and he's wrecking havoc, and you play it out like, Halloween 2 from 1981, where he's in the hospital and Jamie and Rachel are running from him in the hospital. Whatever it is, there's so many ideas that you could go, but you lead us to believe that something's happening over here, but really it's Michael coming back. But that's not what they did with 5. With 5, they said, fuck what happened at the end of 4. Michael's back anyway, because they open it with Michael being, with this hermit, and there's no explanation or reason why his mask is different. It's just such a.
Well, it's amazing. In a matter of a 5-minute conversation here, you just could have pitched a better Halloween 5 than what we were exactly given, unfortunately.
Yeah, you need to flesh it out. I mean, there's details that would have to be fleshed out in development, but the premise, I mean, that, make sure people are watching your left hand, and then you shock them and surprise them with your right hand. That's what they did with the end of Halloween 4.
Yeah.
That's why Halloween 4, the end was so shocking. Because some people believed that when we have the optical effect of the POV of looking through the mask, and so people know, right, exactly. So people know they actually don't put a mask over the camera lens. That's done in post. Some people are like, how do they put the mask? No, it's done in post. But what I'm saying, but that's right. People thought it was Michael because you're making them kind of, and. Do you know what I mean? And then you shock them. And that's what should have been done with 5, is that you make something and then boom, Michael's back and you're like, oh shit. You know what I mean? It's like, didn't see that coming, or obviously you suspect it's coming because
it's great because, it's crazy. I love showing people Halloween, some of the, Halloween 4, Halloween 2, whatever. It's funny. Every time I see someone's reaction at the ending of Halloween, the 78, it's almost like they kind of expected it to happen. Like, okay, he's still alive, okay. Every time I show them 4, man, it's stunned. They're like, oh my God, like what the fuck just happened? Oh yeah. And the letdown of it when I have to show them Halloween 5, I have to brace them, and I'm like, okay, I'm warning you here. It's a fucking shit show.
Exactly. And Loomis's no as well. No. I mean, that's pain. Yep. That's power. I mean, that is pain. You see it on his face. No, it's that I can't go through this again. I failed. No, this can't happen again.
That's exactly what I think every time I see him shouting that no, is not because he's saying no, because it's him. He feels he has failed. He failed Michael, and now he has failed Laurie's daughter. It's not because he's no, because she's, the new quote Michael. It's no, I'm failed. I have totally failed.
Right. And then, of course, you go to Halloween 6, and we've talked about that, trying to speed things up here because I do want to take some questions. But you get to 6, and we all know 6. I mean, 6 essentially is what it is. We talked a bit about it here, and Yes, I've seen the producer's cut. Yes, I don't think it's really much better than the. It's so funny. I love it. But no. You got to watch the producer's cut. It's so much better than the theatrical cut. All the producer's cut does is fill in, is give answers to a few unanswered questions. It's not like I watched the producer's cut and it's a completely different movie. It's the same movie with the same ending, with the same result. It's just there's a few different things that maybe give some context to things. But at the end of the day, it's the same film. So I don't like the movie. I don't like the theatrical cut. Really, I don't like the producer's cut. There's things in the movie that I like. Again, I can find redeeming qualities. But as a whole, I'm not a fan of the movie. And then H2O, of course, we talked about that. And Resurrection is just, it's garbage. Resurrection, again, is the epitome of capitalizing on pop culture, what's current. Survivor was very new at the time. Webcams and chatting with people on webcam was very new at the time. And so they took Survivor and webcams and put them together and had this danger-tainment. It was dumb. It was really dumb.
The only redeeming quality to Halloween 6: The Curse of Michael Myers is the fan theory meme, however you pronounce it, of Tommy Doyle's journey to becoming Ant-Man. That's the only redeeming quality. If you don't know it, there's a thing out there. You have to look it up. It's where you see Jamie Lee Curtis and Tommy Doyle as a little boy on the couch, and she's reading off the names, Neutron Man and all that stuff, the comic books. And then Halloween 6, he's older. It's Paul Rudd. He's got to fight Michael for his training ground. This is the beginning of him taking that first step to becoming, the Ant-Man and all that stuff. So that's just a little side joke. But if you haven't seen that, it's funny. It's a funny meme. So
that's awesome. And of course, when you get to Halloween 2018, everybody knows here, at least they should know now, our thoughts on Halloween 2018. I liked the movie. I didn't love the movie. I thought it was a good modern day film, a good modern day horror movie that had some Halloween things in it. But I think it could have been a better Halloween movie. And there's a lot of missed opportunities. It's fine for what it is, but I think there's a lot of missed opportunities. And if you want to know all my thoughts on that, you know the review to go to on my channel. I don't think they need to make a sequel. For those of you that are wondering, I did promise that I am working on I think some people are under the impression that I'm making a short film that is a sequel to Halloween 2018. That's not what's happening, guys. I don't understand. There are a lot of people that are like, I can't wait to see your movie. Can't wait to see your film. I'm not making a film. I'm going to elaborate on my concept for a Halloween 2018 sequel. And that video is still coming. It just takes a lot of work to flesh some things out. So I have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and something that I can be passionate about sharing with you guys. So that will eventually come. I don't know when yet, but it is in the works. But in reality, I don't think they need to make a sequel to this movie. I really don't. I don't know what you would do. I don't know where you would go. You know, in reality, I mean, I have ideas, obviously, which is what I'm doing with my little video, but it would not surprise me if they didn't make a sequel. I think it was nice. It was a nice swan song. It was nice to come home, revisit. You know, I had some cool moments. I was disappointed with some things. And that's it. Okay, great.
Like what you said about the Last Jedi. I would be a hypocrite. You know, I don't like this new film. I mean, I like it in the sense of if it's a greatest hits, that it's a celebration of 40 years of Halloween. Yes, okay. From that perspective, it's a good flick. But as far as saying it's a direct sequel to the original film, no, it's not. And there's too much callbacks that we've talked about this endless. But just to paraphrase it, there's too much callbacks to the entire franchise, not just the original film, that it took me out of the movie. And yeah, I'm not going to add it to my collection. I like where my collection's at with the film, with the franchise. And, I would be a total hypocrite if I went out and now bought bought Halloween. I think it's that one, Halloween, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 I don't have, and Resurrection. Those are the three in the franchise.
And I think before we go to the chat room here and take some questions, I think people have to understand there's nothing wrong with something coming to an end. There's nothing wrong with stories ending. And there's certainly nothing wrong with stories ending at the times that they're supposed to end. And you heard me say at the beginning of, or towards the beginning of the stream is that, you know, you guys know me. I'm a big fan of that original intent of the character. And I firmly believe that Michael works best in smaller doses. I think the reason we love this character so much is not because of his portrayal in Halloween 6. It's not because, listen, what's the mask? I'm not saying that people don't want Halloween 6 masks or H2O masks, but when you look at collectors, you know, who go out looking for Michael Myers masks, generally speaking, what's the mask that everybody wants? They want the mask from that first movie.
Yep.
You know, everybody loves that first movie. Everybody loves that character and what that represents. And that doesn't mean you can't make a couple of sequels. Of course you can. Sure. And maybe they're fun and they're cool. But Michael works best in small doses. And I don't think there's anything wrong with saying it's over. I don't think there's, even though they left the Halloween 2018 movie open for a sequel, they did that for business. It's for business. It's not for you. It's for business because they want to have the option there. But I think it's okay if they never made another one. And I wouldn't care if they never did. I don't care. It was just Michael burned in the fire in Laurie's house. Great. There's nothing wrong with saying, okay, that's how it ended. And now we can enjoy the good movies we have. The last thing we want is the bad movies to outnumber the good movies. And right now they do. And, you know,
the bad movies do outnumber the good ones because, you know, when you really think about it, we've got 4 solid Halloween movies that we can watch every October.
That's right.
And how many? There's like 11 of them.
That's right. That's right. And there's nothing wrong with things coming to an end. You know, it's because they meet their shelf lives. Sitcoms, you know, Jerry Seinfeld was offered, what was it? 80, 90, 100 million. It was something ridiculous. $100 million, let's say. I don't know if it was that high, but it was something ridiculous to do a season 10, to continue on. And he said he turned it down because of the integrity of the show. Now, some could argue that the last few seasons of Seinfeld were not that great anyway, but it's the point I'm making is that it's done. It's run its course.
Yeah.
You know, and Michael is a specific Jason because of how he was designed. You might be able to get a little more legs out of him. Yeah. Freddie, maybe. Michael, not so much.
That's what, what's his name there? Matthew Perry said about Friends. Right. Why they don't do, you know, everybody want, you know, because we're in this whole reunion comeback television series phase right now with, you know, Roseanne, Will and Grace and other shows, and people are, you know, cramming for Friends. And you know, Matthew Perry said it best. That show had an end. You know, you know, they can't. How can you justify middle-aged adults living in New York City still, single, not settled down somewhere in their life, doing whatever? On top of that, he also brought up a very valid point that when you take a show like Friends and the jokes that they were hitting back in the day,
that's right.
Those jokes would not land today.
No, that's right.
They were doing them. There's no way. So there's like you're saying, like with these movies, whether it's Jason, Freddy, or Michael, you know, they have a shelf life and they have a time. And it's great that we can just reach over. I can just reach over to my VHS collection right now, pop it out and put in the VHS tape and watch Halloween, Halloween 2 and Halloween 3 and 4, you know, and enjoy it. You know, you don't need to just keep cranking out shit just to keep cranking out shit. You know, this is one franchise that is not a well-oiled machine.
I agree. I absolutely agree. And that's why I think, and again, I understand why they didn't, but I think there's a lot of missed opportunities in that movie, but one of them in Halloween 2018, and you've heard me say this, I think Laurie should have died in the fire. I think Laurie should have sacrificed herself to save Karen and Allison by dying in the fire with Michael Myers. And they get into a struggle. She jumps on him, whatever it is. And both Michael and Laurie burn in the fire together. What a wonderful way to bring it home. I understand why they didn't, but I wish they had had the balls to do it, because I would have had the utmost respect. And I would have thought, now that's a great ending. And, unfortunately, now are they going to make another one? Oh God! Now where do we go? You know, and if you don't pick up where this one left off, where has Michael been? You know, and are we just going to capture him again, throw him in the prison, only to escape again? Guys, there's nothing wrong with things ending. But anyway, so you think we should open up to the chat room?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, folks, we're going to open up to the chat room. Start asking your questions for Tony Michael and Dave McRae here on this January 27th, 2019.
Yes.
Let's see here. There we go. Oh, they're rolling in. Zach Gaxola, am I saying that right? Dave, what are you? Yeah, Zach Galifianakis.
Yeah, the actor's in here. What the fuck?
I think he is. Dave, what are your thoughts on the Toy Story franchise and the upcoming Toy Story 4? I have only seen the first 2 Toy Story. I still have to see the beloved tearjerker Toy Story 3. I like the Toy Story movie, so yeah, I'll check it out for sure. I don't know if I'll go to the theater to see it, but definitely at the very least a Netflix watch for sure. What about you, Tony?
Never even seen Toy Story 1. I'm not animation films. Like the only animation films that I've watched, Lion King, obviously, the old classic Disney ones that we grew up with, obviously. But Lion King was probably it. That was probably the last time I really sat down and watched an animated film. I don't have any kids, so it's not like I'm collecting animation films and staying on, to date with, what parents are showing kids today. And Toy Story came in like right in that like mid 90s, right around the Lion King time frame. And I never got a chance to,
if you get a chance to see The Incredibles and The Incredibles 2, I recommend it. Fun movies, really fun movies. Really fun movie.
This one from Tyler Davis. Second favorite John Carpenter movie. Good question.
It would be, for me, it would. Oh,
I already know.
It's a toss up between 3 movies.
I'll give him mine. The Thing.
The Thing, yeah, yeah. For me, it depends on the day. If you ask me today, it might be The Thing. You ask me tomorrow, it's The Fog. And if you ask me a week from now, it even could be In the Mouth of Madness, which I think is a very underrated. It's not great,
yeah,
but it's underrated. And that was shot up here, by the way. So, yeah, good question.
Very, very good question. We got a super chat from Nathan.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't. Oh, we did. Yeah, there it is. Nathan. Thank you so much, Nathan Oswald. We had 3 comeback Halloween films, being H4, H2O, and H18. Blumhouse, please don't screw up a sequel and don't pull an H5 and Resurrection.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. Yeah, I think they. Yeah, look, is the probability high that Blumhouse is going to do a sequel to? Yes, it is. But there's something it's a feeling. I don't know anybody close to the project personally. So I'm not getting any insight yet on that, but it's just a feeling I have that it would not surprise me if a couple years go by and we don't have a sequel to Halloween 2018. It would not surprise me. I think we probably will. But if you were to ask me what I think the percentage is, I think it's 75%. I'm not kidding. I think there's a 25% chance we may not, but we'll see.
Alex Dodrill asked, "What's your favorite Friedkin movie?" Exorcist. Pretty much. I mean,
yeah, I'm not too familiar with a lot of his work, so it sounds like such a cliche, but that would be the same for me.
That would be it's kind of hard to top that one. Oh, you got another super chat there from Chris.
Did I miss that? I don't see it. Oh, I did. I missed it. Thank you, Chris. Chris Baber. Rock on, Chris. Did Laurie Strode die on the truck in H4O? In my concept sequel idea that I will be dishing out eventually, no, she didn't. But whether in the real canon world, I have no idea.
I hope so, because I want that bitch dead.
Hey, maybe when they showed Allison holding the knife in her hand, gripping it, what you're actually going to see in a sequel, it cuts right to that moment, and Allison lifts up the knife and stabs her mother even more and keeps stabbing her, and Karen's like, "Allison, what are you doing? Allison!" She's going, nah, blood all over the place, and then it just cuts Halloween.
Yes, it would be a very gratifying moment for me on screen. The resurrection moment didn't do it for me, but I want to see Michael, and I want to see Michael go full fucking like Sunny at the fucking Causeway, just go to town on fucking Laurie, not just like this one fucking stab and, he fucking kisses her and she falls down. No, I want him to go to fucking town on her like it's an Italian hit job and fucking dice her up, and that will be so gratifying. But we'll never.
Very cool. A super chat from, am I saying this right? Daquan Weaver. Am I saying that right? Hopefully I said it right, buddy. I apologize if I didn't, but he gave a super chat. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Patrick Thorpe, super chat, says, hey, Tony. Oh, well, you can read that, Tony. It's for you.
Where is it? Oh, hey, Tony, I follow you on Instagram. Just wanted to say you do great work. Thank you very much. And hey, Dave, what's up?
Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up, Patrick?
Yeah, for those who don't know, I shoot film, like film, not digital, but I shoot film and a lot of country stuff where I live in Georgia. Very cool. Been getting a very good feedback on this thing that I've been doing over the last month or so with my Instagram work. So Dave's going to link that in the description below if you guys want to hit me up and follow me on the old IG.
Yep, it's already down there right now. Super chat from iPimp Trolls. Thank you, iPimp Trolls. Appreciate that. That goes right to the channel. Your thoughts on Rob Zombie's Michael Myers mask? I thought the Michael Myers mask in the Rob Zombie remake from 2007 was all right. I mean, of course it's got the 78 sort of spirit to it, but it certainly has its own identity. I wasn't a fan, though, of course, of the half face, half mask and him speaking. But that is Rob Zombie making it his own. But the Rob Zombie's Michael Myers mask is the least of the issues I have with the movie. I don't have any issues with it, really, at the end of the day.
It's my second favorite mask if we are counting it like this. If Halloween and Halloween 2018 are considered to be one mask, that's my favorite. His mask is actually my second favorite. His before it got all fucked up.
Okay. Okay, cool. Brandon Gregory says thoughts on Michael Lerner's work as Myers. Michael Lerner's work as Myers. Are you talking about the? I think I know who you're talking about, but refresh my memory to who he is. I have like 4 ideas going through my head. Patrick Ollinger says, Dave, if you could meet a famous person, who would it be? I've actually met quite a few famous people. But I would have to say Harrison Ford, my favorite actor of all time.
See, you're lucky. Yours is still alive. Mine, unfortunately, is not. If I could have one sit-down conversation with someone, it would. No surprise.
Stanley Kubrick.
No surprise, Stanley Kubrick. Yeah.
Oh, I'd love that too. I'd love that too.
Just sit down with Stanley Kubrick, talk to him about photography, talk to him about, just geek out on lenses and different types of film and, what he thinks about, framing a shot like this, and just not so much talk to him about the movie side of it, but just like getting into the knee-deep grittiness of just creating pictures, creating film and stuff like that. It would have to be Kubrick.
Right. Gotcha.
You got another one there from, you got a couple, I think. We got to catch up on here. You got Terrell Simmons. We got Brandon's. We got Terrell Simmons here with a super chat. What is more iconic, Halloween or Psycho? Oh, fuck. That's a tough question. I mean, look, Psycho obviously is that started us all. I mean, you can't minimize what Alfred Hitchcock did. You can't minimize the impact. You have to understand something. We look at it from a 2019 perspective of a classic black and white film with Anthony Perkins. I said that right? Right? Perkins, right?
Perkins, yeah.
I always get him and Hopkins confused sometimes. And Janet Leigh and whatnot. But for that time in '63, my dad tells me stories, man. Like, people were taking shower curtains off in the hotel bathrooms. Like, people were freaked the fuck out. So you can't minimize the impact that Psycho did. It's one of my favorite Hitchcock films, although I'm like Dave. There's some other ones that I like, with Jimmy Stewart, Vertigo, Rope. I like Birds as well too. I mean, I like Psycho. It's not my favorite of the Hitchcock, filmography. I don't know how you feel about that, Dave, but to compare the two, I think that's really tough.
It is because, they're 18 years apart and Psycho has its own identity. Halloween has its own identity. It's hard to say what is better. I mean, what do you mean by better? That's what I would say. Like, what do you mean by better? I mean, is Halloween a better shot movie? Is it better? I don't know. You have to. It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
Yeah.
Um, they're both very different. But definitely Psycho's not my favorite Hitchcock movie though.
Same here. It's not
Yeah,
mine either. I'm with you on that. But you can't minimize what Psycho's done, you know, what it did for the film industry at its time. So,
exactly.
question though, you got another one from Daquan Weaver.
Oh yeah.
Do you want to ask it? Did you?
Yes. Sorry, I was Daquan Weaver. Yes. Do you think Halloween 2018 should have been canon with H4?
Yes, if we're talking about, I think we should have had a moment of, you know, with Jamie Lee Curtis and Danielle Harris on screen together as mother and daughter. Yes, because there's nothing that I saw that Judy Greer did that Danielle Harris couldn't have done as an actress.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I would prefer it if it was a sequel, even though I'm not a fan of the brother sister story arc. I would prefer if it was a sequel actually to H2.
Sure.
1981. Okay. I pimped. Yeah, I pimped trolls. Appreciate it.
I'm not laughing at the donation. I'm laughing at what you're saying.
Yes, exactly. Can you make me mod so I can ban these trolls? I'm a pimp, you know. We will see. We will see. I will put you on the list of potential mods. I pimp trolls. I will put you on the list of potential mods. Let's see here. Grave Warmer says, Dave, who's your favorite voice actor of all time? And Tony, your favorite piece of photography of all time? My favorite voice actor. Ooh, I don't really know. I have many that I admire. Frank Welker, I admire. I admire, of course, the great Mel Blanc, and it's hard to say, but for different reasons, you know. So it's hard to say.
Gosh. This is a tough question. Okay. I mean, if you look at my work and what you see, okay, we'll take away from what I do for a living as far as commercial photography. That's my job, what I'm getting hired to do for doing corporate stuff and stuff that you would see on my website. But like what I personally do, my passion in photography, what I'm actually photographing out there on film, that you guys see on my Instagram is very influenced by like artists like Robert Adams is one that comes to mind. Jason Lee, the actor Jason Lee. A lot of people don't know this. Jason Lee, who starred in Mallrats, he was Brody. He's a photographer. He's a phenomenal photographer. A lot of his style of photography has influenced me as well too. So I think if you were to look at Jason Lee's work, look at Robert Adams' work, Henry Wessel is another photographer. If you looked at him, I mean, I didn't want to just say Ansel Adams because I think every photographer can say Ansel Adams was like, you know, the godfather for all of us. And I love Ansel Adams' work, don't get me wrong, but I would say like as far as like what I love about, you know, shooting film and even shooting digital as well too, when I'm not doing client stuff and doing the type of photography that I enjoy doing, it's very influenced by Robert Adams and Jason Lee and Henry Wessel. So definitely those three guys. If you can't find Robert Adams' work or Henry Wessel's work, definitely go on Instagram and follow Jason Lee because you guys will really like his work.
Very cool. Very cool. Terrell Sims, super chat. Thank you. I mean, influential. Terrell, did you ask something earlier? I might have missed that, Terrell. I apologize. You don't have to send it in a super chat. You can ask again. I mean influential. I must have missed that earlier. Chris Baber says, does David Gordon Green return with or without Carpenter, Curtis, or McBride? Support the fuck out of this total shit show, by the way. Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. No, I don't think he does. I don't think David Gordon Green's going to return. I would be surprised if he, I mean, maybe. I don't know. There's a feeling. I got to sort my feelings out. I'm not convinced. There's even going to be a sequel. I don't know, but does he return with or without Carpenter, Curtis, or McBride? Does David Gordon Green? I think that's possible. Yes. But I don't know. It's so hard to say.
Well, Curtis has already said if he's back or if Green is in it, right? Green's in, she'll do it. If he's not, she's not going to do it.
Yeah, I don't. Yes, that's true.
Money talks, you know. I mean,
of course it does.
Carpenter. The only thing I think Carpenter will ever do at this point is just, you know, he'll do the soundtrack, but he ain't directing or anything like that.
No, of course not. Not a Halloween film. He might do something small. Let's see here. Alex Payne, I think I'm saying that right. Where do you guys would put Rob Zombie's Halloween movies on ranking above all the other flicks in the franchise, including Resurrection? Well, I mean, I just don't. I would put them. I just don't care. They're just. I'm indifferent to them. I don't like the movies, so they are the least watched. That I've watched them least. I can't remember the last time I saw them. To be honest, I've watched them the least out of all the Halloween films, and that includes 5 and Resurrection.
What was the question? I missed it.
The question was, where would you rank Rob Zombie's Halloween films, basically against all the other films in the franchise?
I wouldn't even rank them because they're kind of they're the redheaded stepchild that's over here. That's how I kind of look at those films.
Right. Any redheads in the chat room? It's just a joke, folks. It's a joke. Right. Thank you for the super chat, Grave Warmer. Let's see here. Halloween _fan 93 says, do you think Michael is the type to harm kids?
Well, we discovered that in this new film he is.
Yes, he killed that kid in the pickup.
Oh, can I say something on a side note? Because I knew the PC fucking bullshit people were going to come out and attack this on the deleted scene shit. Because I saw this shit on the internet. Okay, for the fucking record, for those who don't know, who want to get all fucking PC, Michael kills a dog in the original fucking film. So why everybody got batshit crazy because the dog was hanging in the tree in this new film and Michael kills the dog is fucking beyond me, because it's not the first time we saw Michael kill a fucking dog.
That's true. That's true. Yes, who was upset about the dog in the tree? There were people that were upset about the dog in the tree.
An article pop. I meant to send that to you. I my Google notifications. It fucking there was a couple articles this week that fucking shook my head. One, fucking Friends is problematic and homophobic, and Halloween is fucking PETA some fucking dumb shit.
Well, PETA just needs to screw off. PETA, go do something. Go actually, you know, first of all, there was no real dog dead in the tree. Okay, it's fake, PETA. It's fake. Let's see here. Carl Weidman. What is your thought about them doing a Halloween 3 remake, then continuing on with another anthology? I'd be open to that. I'd look, anything that says we're not going to continue on with Michael Myers, but we're going to tell different, fucked up, weird, crazy, scary the shit out of you stories that evolve around Halloween time. I'm open to it. It's like, okay, tell me what you got. I don't necessarily convince that it's going to work, but I'm definitely open to the idea. So yeah, I'm open to that.
I'm open to doing a sequel to Season of the Witch, but I think Season of the Witch is fine as is. I don't think you need to change anything with it. There really isn't. Now, if you wanted to continue that story, yeah, hell, why not?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Bo Cooper says, Dave, speak up. What is your thought of the new Trick or Treat Studios 78 mask after seeing it worn by them? It looks fine. It looks fine. I mean, it's certainly, you know, I've said on many occasions that you need a good base, and what Justin Mabry created with the first official Trick or Treat Studios Halloween 1 mask is a good base, but it all depends on what it looks like when it winds up on your doorstep. There were a lot of people that were satisfied with their Halloween 2018 masks, and there were a lot of people that weren't, which is why a lot of people have sent their 2018 Halloween Michael Myers masks off to be rehauled. So, you know, I'm a wait and see kind of guy. These new Halloween 1 masks don't start shipping until September, I think, or August. So I'll wait and see what it looks like. They've also released first official Halloween 4 mask as well. So we'll see what they look like.
I am curious on the Halloween 4 mask, because I am getting my mask because of Dave. I don't think we did it on the live stream. I think I saw one of your videos and I went and saw it, and I'm going to buy it. Is the Night Owl mask. I really like that mask. I think you mentioned it. Is that the name of the company? Night Owl?
Night Owl Productions was Justin Mabry's company. I don't know if I think he still got it. Yeah.
He still got him. It's like $300 or something like that for the mask. Right. So that's probably my favorite, but the 4, what Trick or Treat Studios is doing, I'm curious to see what they do for Halloween 4. But Tristan here asked us, Dave and Tony, do you guys like the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Yes, I do.
Yes, I do. I haven't seen it in quite some time, but I do like it a lot. I Pimp Trolls again, donating to the channel. Do you think we will ever see a Jason versus Michael Myers movie? No, and well, maybe. You know, you never say never. I hope not. I'm not a big fan of crossovers. And I understand that that has been going on since millennia. I mean, you know, Frankenstein and the Wolfman and the Mummy I mean, it's not unprecedented to have big, iconic horror staples of their time suddenly being in movies together. But I just like, I don't know. There's something about keeping them separate, and I get lost in their own sort of. I just don't see how you can do a crossover without it being hokey and spoofy and campy, because the idea of a crossover in and of itself is spoofy.
Right.
So I really like being like I like the original Freddy because it's serious and it takes itself seriously, and I like the original Halloween because it takes it. In order to get to the point, like Freddy from A Nightmare on Elm Street 1 and Jason from the first couple of Friday the 13th could never have been in a crossover together. You could never do a Freddy versus Jason having Freddy from Elm Street 1 and Jason from Friday 3, let's say. It just wouldn't have worked because they were taking themselves more seriously. I'm not saying the early Friday films were serious movies. I just mean that Jason became a spoof of himself by Jason Takes Manhattan and The Final Friday and Jason X. And now you can put, because he's almost not even taking himself seriously. And Freddy by Freddy's Dead. You know, I mean, it's like, yes, you can put those two in a movie together, which is why it sort of worked. But a serious, like, it's too spoofy to me, you know, and I like keeping them separate. Good question, but I hope they don't.
No, I agree. We were talking about that the other day. I think the versus thing works for like King Kong versus Godzilla. Very much forward to that. That's around the corner here after Godzilla 2.
Right.
I can't wait. And even in this new Godzilla, there's a couple of monsters that he's going to be fighting in there. I think that's where it works. You know, do you get into this area? I'm with Dave. I mean, yeah, I know they did it with Freddy versus Jason, but even that payoff, you know, I don't even own that one, you know, either. It's not like I didn't like it. There's no need for it. So there's no reason to do it. So I'm with Dave on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Horror Junkie 78 asks thoughts on George A. Romero, legend. Besides stating the obvious of Night of the Living Dead, two movies I would recommend anybody to watch are The Crazies and Season of the Witch. He actually has a movie called Season of the Witch.
Yes,
Halloween.
Yeah. So, The Crazies is good.
Great, Crazies is really good. So yeah, George is the man.
George is the man. Okay, we'll take a couple more here and then we'll wrap it up because we started late with the questions. Let's see here. Sad Society says, Dave, how do you think Myers getting arrested at the end of the original would have looked like for the 2018 storyline? I would have been okay with Michael. I don't think you need to show it. I would have been okay with Michael getting arrested if they had, as long as it didn't happen on the front lawn, because you have to keep the integrity of the ending of that first movie. So if you want to begin the movie with him shooting Michael, falling off the balcony, looking over, he's gone, use the footage from the 1978 film. There's no need to recreate that. There's no need for it. Use the footage that's already there. And then maybe the new stuff that you shoot is Michael getting apprehended in an alleyway down the street around the corner because he's been shot 6 times and, you know, he's bleeding. That would have been kind of cool maybe to see just for curiosity's sake. But as long as the cops don't all swarm the front of the Doyle house and they apprehend him on the front lawn, because now you've just destroyed the ending of the first movie. So it writes basically the ending of that first movie, which is supposed to be canon. The ending of that movie is completely obsolete. Because the beginning of the next movie, which is supposed to be the direct sequel to that movie, shows Michael being apprehended on the front lawn. Yep. Whereas the ending of the movie just before that shows him not on the front lawn. So it doesn't make any fucking sense. So as long as he's not apprehended on the front lawn, because the ending of the first movie is one of the most iconic endings in horror history. So you got to keep the integrity of that ending. So as long as it wasn't on the front lawn, it may have been interesting, perhaps. I don't know. Tony, what do you think?
I agree with you. Next question.
Okay.
I can't really elaborate. I mean, I pretty much would be repeating what you just said. So
there you go. There you go.
Couple more.
A couple more. See. Michael Martinez says, "Where did you get your Myers mask?" Oh, well, that's an independent mask. That's a All Hallows Ghost movie mold Kirk, AHG MMK. And that's I bought it from one of the independent guys online. So it doesn't come from any store.
What do we got next?
Let's see here. David Johnson says, "I don't see Michael taking orders from the police to put his hands behind his back." Right. Yeah. No, that's a good insight. Let's see here.
Oh, Scott Mariano. Hopefully I didn't pronounce that wrong, but that's a good question there. Dave, what do you think? Do you think Halloween would have been successful without the iconic music? Because there's a lot you can talk about that if you know the stories behind that. How when Carpenter first showed the movie, music, how the woman who watched it said this sucks. She literally said the movie sucked because he played the movie for her without the music, and he learned that lesson that the music is such an intricate part to the movie. So
it
falls flat.
It is, and the Halloween theme is embedded into the pop culture consciousness now. So it's not to say that the movie still wouldn't have been good or wouldn't have been successful, but certainly its main theme, and there's there's a lot of wonderful themes in that movie, but its main theme is integral to the success of that film. So I say that I think there's a good chance the movie still would have done well. But I don't know if it would have become as iconic. That's true, because the theme or the music is a character in that movie. Sure. So yeah, that's important.
The horror junkie asked, "End the stream at 9:30." I mean, I can hang for another 20 minutes.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I can't. Unfortunately, I do have to get going here. But Brandon Gregory says Michael Lerner played Michael Myers in all reshoots for H6. Okay, that's actually not who I was thinking of. I haven't seen H6 in a while. I guess I assume he was the one that was the guy that attacked everybody in the hospital there and whatnot. Perhaps I guess he did okay. I guess from what I remember, I think what he did and what George P. Wilbur did is pretty marginal. Let's just put it that way. That's what I'll say.
Got a super chat there.
Yeah, super chat. Nathan Oswald. They both suck, but I would rather watch Freddy's Dead than Seed of Chucky. Elm Street 6 is insultingly bad, but Chucky 5 is the next level of suck. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, the more you know. Nathan Oswald, the more you know. Okay, well, that's going to do it for Tony and I and for chatting about Halloween, because I do have to skedaddle. But I want to let everybody know that we appreciate you tuning in as we do each and every week. Tony and I are not going to be here next week because next week Tony is going to the Super Bowl. Isn't that right, Tony?
That's right. Going to be, because the Super Bowl is being played here in Atlanta, baby, and the Patriots. Those of you who have been telling me since me and Dave started this stream for the last 2 months, Patriots are going nowhere. The Patriots are going to lose. The Patriots are done. The Patriots are over. Well, like Tom Brady said earlier today, we're still here, and we're playing in the Super Bowl again next Sunday.
That's exactly it.
I'll be there. So.
Yes, exactly. So definitely next week, Tony and I will not be doing a show. But we will be back the following week, and we'll let you know what that show is going to be, of course, as we come closer to it. There's a link to Tony's Instagram in the description. There's links to all my social media as well. Is down there. If you're not following me on Twitter or Facebook, make sure you are to keep up to date, because that's where I tend to post in the meantime and in between time when I'm not posting here. So as usual, this has been a fun chat talking about the Halloween series. It's always fun to talk about Halloween. Everybody who donated to the channel through Super Chat, appreciate it. Absolutely 100%. That's going to go right back into the channel and to the show, of course, as well. Because
get better, baby.
That's right. So appreciate it. And we will talk to you guys soon. In the meantime and in between time, Tony and I are out. Take care of yourself. I'll be a Jerry Springer. Take care of yourself and each other. Fucking Jerry Springer. I don't even think he's on the air anymore. We'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers.